I look at him and what he has, what he represents. And I look at you. It's just not the same league, she told me, humiliating me in front of everyone at the party. I simply said, okay, and walked away. 6 months later, her millionaire soulmate was exposed as a bankrupt fraud. Her fake friends abandoned her, and her texts to me became the most desperate performance of her life. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. So, my life got blown up at a party. Not like, with actual explosives. That would have been less painful, probably. This was the Vanderbilt's annual summer thing. Old money, new money, who even knows? My now ex-wife, Jessica, lived for this stuff. I should rewind. I'm James. I'm 32. I'm a project manager. It's a good job. It pays the bills. Let me buy us a nice little house in a decent neighborhood. I thought we were happy. For a long time we were. Jessica is 31. Was my wife. She used to be a receptionist at a dentist's office. Sweet, funny, loved bad reality TV and ordering Thai food on Friday nights. Then she got a job at this boutique. Not just any boutique. The kind where the clothes don't have price tags and they serve you champagne while you browse. That's where she met them. Carter and his crew. It started small. She'd come home with new phrases. We're summering in the Hamptons, she'd say, even though we both knew our vacation was a long weekend at a lake cabin. Or she'd look at my reliable Toyota Camry and sigh. Carter just got the new Porsche. It's a work of art, James. I tried. God, I tried. I'd save up and buy her a necklace from a nice jewelry store at the mall. She'd smile this tight little smile and say, "It's sweet, darling." Really. Then a week later, Carter would give her a pair of earrings from some designer I couldn't pronounce, and she'd be glowing. He just has an eye for quality, she'd say. The criticism got more direct. We were getting ready for a dinner with her new friends once. "You're not wearing that tie, are you?" she asked, her nose scrunched up like she smelled something bad. "It's the one you got me for my birthday," I said. It was a solid blue tie. Nothing wrong with it. "It's just very corporate," she said, waving a hand. Carter wears these beautiful silk ties from Italy. They have a certain sprezzatura. I didn't know what that meant. I still don't. I just remember feeling like I'd failed a test I didn't know I was taking. The night of the big summer party, I knew I was walking into the lion's den. I put on the best suit I owned. It was from Men's Warehouse. Good enough for my best friend's wedding, good enough for this, I thought. I was wrong. The house was insane. All glass and sharp corners. Everyone looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. And there was Jessica, in the center of it all, laughing too loud at something Carter said. He had that look. You know the one. Perfect hair, a tan that probably cost money, a watch that probably cost more than my car. I grabbed a drink and tried to blend in with a potted plant. Carter spotted me. A shark smelling blood in the water. He swaggered over, Jessica trailing behind him like a happy puppy. "James, good to see you, man," he said, clapping me on the shoulder too hard. "That's a really interesting suit. Bold choice." Jessica giggled. "Oh, stop it, Carter." He tries his best. She turned to me. "Sweetie, Carter's just joking. He's used to a different level of tailoring. That's all." I felt my face get hot. "It gets the job done," I mumbled. "I'm sure it does," Carter said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "It's just, presentation is everything, you know? People make assumptions." The rest of the night was a blur of similar little jabs. Jessica would point out the canapes. "Carter's caterer uses beluga caviar. Isn't that incredible?" She'd talk about vacations. "Carter's taking his friends to his family's villa in St. Tropez next month. Can you even imagine?" I just nodded and smiled. What else could I do? The car ride home was silent for the first 10 minutes. The air was thick with her disappointment. I finally couldn't take it anymore. My hands were tied on the wheel. "You seem to have a really good time tonight," I said, my voice flat. She sighed, like I was exhausting her. "It was a lovely party. It's always stimulating to be around people who are going places. Right? Unlike me." I didn't say that. "You didn't have to, Jess. It was pretty clear every time you laughed while that prick made fun of me." She turned in her seat, and I could see it in her face. The decision was already made. She was just waiting for the right moment to deliver the news. God, why do you have to be so sensitive? So insecure? It was just jokes. You just don't get it. You don't get them. I get that I'm your husband, and you let him treat me like dirt all night." She was quiet for a minute, staring out the window at the dark streets of our very normal, very non-million-dollar neighborhood. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice cold and final. "This isn't working. I'm not the girl you married anymore. I need more." I actually laughed. It was a hollow, bitter sound. "More what, Jessica? More money? A bigger house? A fancier car? More? Everything," she snapped, turning back to me, her eyes flashing. "A life. An experience. I look at Carter and what he has, what he represents, and I look at you." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. "It's just not the same league," she said, her voice dropping to a dismissive whisper. "I deserve that life. He can provide it." We pulled into our driveway. The familiar side of our home, the one we picked out together, the one I'd painted and fixed up, felt like a museum exhibit of a life that was already over. I put the car in park and turned off the engine. The silence was deafening. All the anger, the hurt, the betrayal, it just drained out of me. What was the point? You can't argue with someone who has already decided you're worthless. I looked at her, at the woman I loved for 8 years, and I felt nothing but a vast, empty calm. "Okay," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "If that's what you want, I won't stop you." Her smug expression flickered. She was expecting a fight, begging, tears, something she could use to fuel her narrative of my weakness. My simple acceptance threw her completely. She sputtered for a second. It's not cruel, James. It's honest. I'm sorry you can't understand that." I just nodded, got out of the car, and walked into the house. I went straight to the guest room and closed the door. I heard her storm around the bedroom for a while before everything went quiet. The next morning, she was gone. She'd packed a few suitcases. A note on the kitchen counter said she was staying at Carter's guest house for a while. I stood there, holding the note, in the silent house. The hurt was there, a dull ache in my chest. But stronger than that was a weird, quiet certainty. She'd made her choice, and I'd made mine. I was done. The first week was the weirdest. The silence in the house was a physical thing. I'd gotten so used to the sound of her heels on the floor, her phone constantly buzzing, her complaining about something. Now it was just quiet. I didn't do anything dramatic. I didn't smash our wedding photos. I didn't get drunk and cry. I just felt numb. I went to work. I came home. I ordered a pizza and ate it on the couch, staring at the wall. My phone blew up, of course. Not from her. From her friends. The ones she'd collected like shiny rocks. "OMG, James, Jessica told me everything. I'm so sorry you're hurting. Sarah, it's probably for the best. You two were just on different paths. Carter is so much more her speed." "Melanie." I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? "Thanks for the update"? They weren't my friends. They were just people who enjoyed the drama. The only one I talked to was my buddy, Mark. He's been my friend since college. He doesn't care about sprezzatura. He cares about which brand of cheap beer is on sale. He came over that Friday with a 6-pack and a bag of chips. "Dude," he said, looking around the spotless but sad living room. "You good?" I shrugged. "I don't know. I feel like I failed." "Failed what? The gold digger aptitude test?" "Bro, she failed. She failed hard." He cracked open a beer and handed it to me. "She chose a guy named Carter. You can't trust a guy named Carter. It's a rule." I almost smiled. "He has a villa in St. Tropez. He says he has a villa in St. Tropez. I say I'm secretly Batman. Doesn't make it true." He took a long drink. "Seriously, man. She looked at you, a guy with a solid job who loved her, and decided it wasn't enough. That's a her problem, not a you problem." It was the first time someone had said it so plainly. It wasn't that I wasn't enough. It was that what I had to offer wasn't what she wanted anymore. There's a difference. The divorce papers came a week later. She'd had her new lawyer, probably one of Carter's guys, messenger them over. It was all very efficient. She wasn't asking for anything. Not the house, not alimony. Nothing. The note from her lawyer said, and I quote, "Ms. Peterson wishes to make a clean break and has no interest in any shared assets." I read that line 5 times. No interest in any shared assets. Our life together, our home, our years reduced to an asset she had no interest in. It should have hurt. And it did a little. But mostly, it just cemented things. She was erasing me. Fine. I could help with that. I signed the papers without a fight. My lawyer was confused. "James, you're entitled to." I don't want anything from her, I said, cutting him off. Just make it go away. The numbness started to fade, replaced by a weird kind of clarity. I had all this time and energy I'd been spending trying to keep up with Jessica, trying to be enough for her. Now it was all mine again. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't buy a sports car or get a tattoo. I started small. I joined a gym. Not some fancy club, just the basic one down the street. I went after work. It wasn't about getting ripped. It was about the routine. Putting one foot in front of the other on a treadmill gave my brain something simple to focus on. I started cooking for myself. Real food, not just frozen pizzas. I messed up a lot. Burned a lot of chicken. But it was mine. Work was the biggest change. Before, I was always watching the clock, rushing home to see what mood Jessica was in. Now, I could focus. I dove into a big project that had been languishing. I started offering solutions instead of just identifying problems. My boss, a no-nonsense woman named Brenda, noticed. "You've been on fire lately, James," she said one afternoon, stopping by my desk. "Everything okay at home?" "Yeah," I said, and for the first time, it was mostly true. "Just focusing." She nodded, a knowing look in her eye. "Well, keep it up. The higher-ups are noticing." I wasn't doing it for a promotion. I was doing it because I finally could. Without the constant background noise of Jessica's dissatisfaction, my own mind got quiet enough to actually think. I hung out with Mark and his wife more. We'd have game nights. They'd bicker over Scrabble, and I'd just laugh. It was normal. It was easy. I won't lie. There were still bad nights. I'd see a couple holding hands in the grocery store and get a hollow feeling in my chest. Or I'd wake up and for half a second, forget she was gone, and the reality would hit me all over again. But the feeling never lasted long. I'd get up, make coffee, and go about my day. The life I was building was small and quiet, and it was entirely mine. No one was there to tell me it was boring. No one was there to compare it to something better. And that, for the first time in a long time, felt like enough. About 3 months after the party, my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't know, but I had a feeling. Unknown number. "Hey, heard you got that promotion. Congrats. That's really great." I stared at it. No name, but the tone was unmistakably Jessica's. The fake casualness. The "I'm keeping tabs on you" vibe. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach, but it wasn't longing. It was annoyance. She'd already interrupted my peace once. I wasn't letting her do it again. I deleted the text and blocked the number. It was that simple. It felt powerful. A week later, a new number popped up. New unknown number. "James, I know I made a mistake. A huge one. Carter was a fraud. Everything was a lie. Can we please talk?" I almost felt sorry for her for a second. Almost. The image of her smug face in the car flashed in my mind. He can provide the life I deserve. I deleted that one too, and blocked the new number. The third text came a few days after that, from yet another number. This one had bite. Another new number. "So you're just going to ignore me? After everything we had? I'm hurting here. The least you could do is act like a decent human being." There it was. The anger. The entitlement. She wasn't apologizing because she was sorry. She was apologizing because her plan blew up in her face, and now she expected me to be her emotional safety net again. To make her feel better. I didn't just delete it. I took a screenshot, saved it in a folder I labeled "Remember," and then blocked the number for good measure. The final straw was her mother, Linda, calling. I answered out of habit. "James, sweetie," she cooed, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine, Linda. What do you need?" "I just talked to my Jessica. She's a mess, honey. A complete mess. That Carter character was a monster. He lied about everything. His money, his family, all of it. He used her and tossed her aside." I waited, saying nothing. "She's learned her lesson," Linda pressed on. "She's miserable. A good man would forgive her. You're not going to hold a little mistake over her head forever, are you? You guys had so many good years." I took a slow breath. "Linda," I said, my voice calm and flat. "Jessica and I are divorced. My obligation to her, and to you, is zero. Please do not contact me again." There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then a sputter. "Well, I never. After all I hung up. I felt clean. It was done. The news of the full meltdown came from Mark, who heard it from his wife, who's friends with a woman who used to be in Jessica's orbit. It was better than I could have imagined. Turns out, Carter's wealth was a house of cards. His family was rich, but they'd cut him off years ago for being an irresponsible mess. The mansion? Rented for the summer to impress people. The cars? All leases. The villa in St. Tropez? A timeshare he'd photoshopped himself into. He was living on massive credit card debt and the dwindling handouts from his exasperated parents. When the summer ended, the lease on the mansion was up. The car leases expired. The credit lines were maxed out. His entire social circle, the one Jessica had traded me for, was built on that same shaky foundation of lies and pretend money. The second the free champagne stopped flowing, they vanished. They dropped Carter instantly. And they dropped Jessica right along with him. She was collateral damage. She was left with nothing. No fancy friends, no rich boyfriend, and no home to come back to. She'd thrown away the real thing for a glittery piece of fool's gold. Mark told me all this over a beer, watching my reaction. I just took a sip. "You're not going to say it?" he asked. "Say what?" "I told you so." I shrugged. "Doesn't need to be said." And it didn't. The facts were enough. She'd chosen a fantasy, and the reality had been brutally, perfectly ironic. Karma didn't need my commentary. I didn't feel happy about her downfall. I didn't feel angry. I just felt nothing. Her disaster was her own. It had nothing to do with me. My life was quiet now. It was mine. And that was everything. 6 months to the day after the Vanderbilt party, my friend Mark dragged me to an art gallery opening. His wife's friend was showing her pottery or something. I wasn't really listening. I'd bought a new suit, a better one, just for me, and figured it was a good excuse to wear it. The place was crowded, the kind of event that was more about being seen than seeing art. I was sipping a seltzer water, nodding while Mark explained the profundity of a particularly lopsided vase when I felt it. That prickling feeling on the back of your neck when you're being watched. I turned around, and there she was, Jessica, hovering near a large, abstract painting that looked like a toddler had a fight with a blender. She looked different, smaller. The clothes were all wrong, cheap, fast fashion stuff, a far cry from the designer labels Carter had supposedly bought her. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tired. Our eyes met. She looked startled, then hopeful, then desperately sad all at once. She started weaving through the crowd toward me. "Hey, Mark," I said quietly. "Give me a minute." He followed my gaze, saw her, and his eyes went wide. "You want me to?" "Nah, I'm good." He nodded and melted into the crowd, giving us space, but keeping an eye out. Jessica stopped in front of me. She smelled like cheap perfume. "James." She forced a smile. "You look really good." "Thanks," I said. My voice was neutral, polite, like you'd talk to a cashier you'd never see again. I don't know what to say," she started, her words tumbling out in a rehearsed rush. "I was such a fool. He used me. They all did. It was all a lie. I just waited. I didn't offer a tissue. I didn't say, 'That's awful.' I just let the silence hang there." She filled it, her voice cracking. "I miss us. I miss you. What we had was real. This." She gestured vaguely at the gallery, the people, the art. "All this that's just stuff. Can we ever?" She left the question hanging, her eyes begging. I looked at her, really looked. I saw the woman I'd loved for years. And I felt absolutely nothing. "Jessica," I said, my tone calm and final. "That chapter is closed. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same." The hope in her eyes died. It was replaced by a flicker of the old anger, the entitlement that had gotten her here. Her face tightened. "You don't even care, do you?" she hissed, the mask of remorse slipping completely. "Not even a little?" "After everything." I held her gaze, utterly undisturbed. "I don't," I said, the truth of it ringing clear in my voice. "I hope you find what you're looking for." "Excuse me." I didn't wait for a reply. I turned my back on her, walked over to where Mark was pretending to be fascinated by a lump of painted clay, and picked up our conversation like nothing had happened. I never saw or heard from her again. Mark told me later she stood there for a full minute, just staring at nothing, before she walked out alone. The thing is, she was wrong that night in the car. It wasn't that I didn't understand. I understood perfectly. She wanted a life that looked good from the outside, no matter how empty it was on the inside. She got exactly what she asked for. I built something different. Something real. It's not flashy. There's no villa. But it's mine. It's peaceful. And she's finally, completely, irrelevant to it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.